A year ago, at President Joe Biden's first State of the Union address, he had Vice President Kamala Harris and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi sitting behind him on the dais, with Republican Congresswoman Lauren Boebert of Colorado and Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia in the crowd heckling. This year, he will have Republican Speaker Kevin McCarthy sitting behind him with the Vice President, while the hecklers are essentially running the place now. And one of the first acts of the new heckling far-right majority was to target the only black Muslim headscarf-wearing woman in Congress, Representative Ilhan Omar, a former refugee and arguably the House member best acquainted with the effects of American foreign policy through first-hand experience, was voted off the Foreign Affairs Committee last week on a strictly party line vote. And tonight she's agreed to join me on the show in her first national interview since that vote. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar, Democrat of Minnesota, welcome back to the show. Let me start by asking you this. You made comments in 2019 about money in politics that were seen as anti-Semitic tropes. You apologized for them. You said you've learned, you've grown. But there are Republicans who have said much worse stuff, openly bigoted stuff, have yet to apologize, but they're still on their committees, and you're not. How much do you think the targeting of you last week had to do with your identity? And how much to do with your views, specifically your criticisms of Israel, that Speaker McCarthy openly singled out?
Well, Mehdi, it's great to be with you. It precisely has to do with bigotry. If you remember, Marjorie Taylor Greene herself in 2019 came to Congress and said she was going to force Rashida and I to get sworn in on the Bible because we certainly could not be official unless we did so. She talked about how we were infiltrating Congress as Muslims. You remember Trump coming to Minnesota and saying Somalis were infiltrating your state. Yes. These are people who certainly don't believe Muslim immigrants, Somali immigrants, refugees, and certainly someone who carries all of those identities together should be in the United States, let alone in Congress, and wield any kind of power. But it's also something deeper, right? It is this bigoted idea that they hold on who should have access to the legal system to seek justice. They don't believe Muslims or Black people should have equal access here in the United States to our legal system, and they certainly don't believe, Palestinians and others who are wronged, whether it is Iraqis or Afghanis, that are wronged by our foreign policy or the policies in Israel, should have access to international law to seek through international law to seek justice. I have brought about these concerns in that committee. I've spoken about the injustices that are out there that are being done in our name with our tax dollars, and why it is important to have a voice on that committee to be asking those kind of questions. And you've heard Republicans like Matt Gaetz who have said, this is the reason they want to take Ilhan off the committee, because she asks the kind of questions no one expects any member of Congress to be asking, let alone somebody who looks like her.
Yeah, what happened to the party of free speech when they say we can't have Ilhan Omar saying things we don't like on the Foreign Affairs Committee? I know you have to have a lot of security. You shared audio on your Twitter feed recently of a death threat that you received. I want our viewers to have a listen. I want to tell our viewers it is shocking. I'm going to give that warning.
I'll put a bullet in your head and get the out of my country, you. I'll kill you.
Horrific, disgusting, scary stuff. I have to ask, how much do you blame people like Speaker McCarthy and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and others for these kind of threats that you constantly get?
Yeah, it was one of the reasons Marjorie Taylor Greene was taken off her committees. It's inciting violence and threatening the lives and co-signing rhetoric like this. I certainly blame Trump, who put a target on my back, and McCarthy, who, for some odd reason keeps saying that I am somehow a security threat when, his caucus is full of people who incited an insurrection, supported an insurrection, who certainly are a threat to our democracy and our republic. These people don't really understand the weight that their language carries. They have no remorse. And I think, frankly, many of them might actually be happy if one of these these people were to carry out these kind of threats. A lot of people would say it's your beliefs, it is what you say, it's the policies you push for. But if you listen to almost every single voicemail that I get, every single hate-filled, threatening voicemail I get is always rooted in my actual identity, where I came from, my country of birth. It's rooted in the faith that I practice visibly and proudly, and it's certainly rooted in my skin color and my ethnicity. So it is not. I would love for people to disagree and debate me on the policies that I believe in bringing forth, you know, how I think our country can do better, I think we can do better for the world. But certainly these people are not interested in debating me on any of those things. They are interested in shutting me down because they don't believe somebody who looks like me should have an opinion here in this country or should be in this country.
Do you believe the leader of your party, the President of the United States, has your back, has had your back as you've been targeted and demonized and threatened?
I've heard the spokesperson of the White House comment on this, and they've been really strong. I haven't heard the president been asked or address any of this. And you know, would love to hear the President of the United States speak about the rise and the continuation of anti-Muslim bigotry, the demonization of Black immigrants, the demonization of Black people in this country. You know, we are humans. We matter. We are part and parcel of American society, and our lives should be valued and our opinions should be valued as every other American.
So on that note, the president tweeted this picture from his State of the Union preparations ahead of tomorrow. You're bringing as your guest tomorrow the father of Amir Locke, the 22-year-old Black man who was killed by police in his apartment during a no-knock raid. Are you hoping to see the president say something new, something bold about tackling police violence and how to stop it? Last year in his State of the Union, he was very keen to say we should be funding the police.
Well, what I'm hoping for is that the vicious, merciless beating and death of Tyre Nichols in Memphis brings about a new change and a new tone from the president. I hope that he is aspirational in what he wants us to do in Congress and uses the bully pulpit to encourage us to come together to move an agenda that will keep everyone safe in this country. But I also hope that he announces what kind of tools might still be left within his power and the power of the executive order that he is willing to deploy, because certainly things have to change. You know, I'm bringing Amir Locke's father with me. Amir Locke was a young 22-year-old who was killed by police in a no-knock warrant.